G'day folks, Greg Budd from Bud's Baits here. Welcome to the African Lure Craftsman.
So we have our three main components here. The wire, it's pre-tied. It's been super glued there, strong as an ox. We have our lure blank, which we've now widened the slot, the wire slot, to now accommodate the pre-shaped weight. Again, this is freestyling, so it's a very simple process of hand shaping a weight to fit the particular lure you're doing. This one fits pretty well in there. At this stage, I wouldn't worry about whether it's exactly central or not. When we glue it in place, that's when we'll worry about that. So I've done this now. It fits both the wire and the weight perfectly. And now we are going to go about setting it in place. Next step, guys, thin viscosity super glue. Very easy to use, much easier than dipping or anything at this stage. I'm just going to seal the inner of the wire cavity and the weight cavity. Just by dribbling this down the sides there, you can see by the darker color of the wood, if it covers everything, that not only seals it, but it assists with the bonding of the wire when we get to that stage there. So we've done that side there. Let's turn it around and we'll do this side here. You can be quite liberal with this. Just keep the lure straight so it doesn't all run out either side. And if there's any left over in the bottom, just rock the lure back and forth gently. This wood on most timber drinks super glue like water, so it sinks in there pretty quickly. Okay, so that's done there. I can see that it's all done. Let that dry for a bit. Okay, now for the little hack of gluing the wire in and the weight. A lot of guys use baking soda and super glue. You get a type of chemical reaction when you combine the two. It's called polymerization. You get a chemical reaction between the two called polymerization. I don't use baking soda. I like to use Jacaranda wood dust. Now, different timbers have different reactions with super glue, some better than others. I find Jacaranda to be a fantastic reaction. I'm going to show you a little bit here. Just a trick. You're going to see the reaction happen. Just be warned as well. It is a noxious sort of gas that it gives off, so stay out of the way. Don't get in your eyes. It stings like hell. But if I do that, you'll see it start smoking very quickly. So that was just a couple of drops on there. If I blow away from that, that is rock hard already. And it forms into a foam, an expanding foam. It actually expands a bit into the cracks, into the gaps, seals in the wire and seals in the weight. So I find it a very effective bonding adhesive. Another reason I use it is the baking soda I find too heavy. So as soon as you impregnate baking soda with super glue, it becomes like glass. And it's a heavy substrate that you now have to fit into a lure, which might affect the swim, might affect the disparity between the weight and the buoyancy in the back or the top of the lure. So the Jacaranda dust I find a much better substitute for that. Kind of forms a foam and keeps the lure belly light. Okay, getting the wire into place. So we've got a sealed inner. We take a little bit of the jack dust and we make a bed for the wire. This is so that the dust is already under the wire when we get it in there. You can do it a couple of ways. You can put the wire in it, drop the dust on top and shake it until it gets in here. But I do this so it ensures that there is some dust in there underneath the wire, which will then bond with the dust we put on top. We get our wire in place. We seat it exactly where we need it. Okay, so we've got our wire into place there. Make sure it's seated in the right areas. Remembering the front and the back, we just have to slot it in because the recess is the same width as the wire. We know it's straight already. What I'll do then is I'll get some more jack dust on top of those areas there, and we'll just embed that into place there by putting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drops there. You can see the reaction taking place already. Okay, we'll do the same with the back here. Let's just seat that, so jack dust first. You can stoke it down a little bit. That's just to keep it in place. We'll be doing a thorough job shortly. And get that in there, and that's done. Chemical reaction. And we're seated there. So now for the middle wire. Remember, the middle wire, we've got a bit of a gap here, but we can still play with this and move it either way. So we want to make sure we have that in a central position just by line of sight, and it's got to come a little bit over here that way. And what I'll do then is I'll just hold it where I need it, put some more jack dust in, super glue, let that set into place. Don't worry about any spillage, try wipe it off where you can, and that is set into place now. So our wire is sitting nicely in there, very uniform, and we're ready to put the weight in and the rest of the dust. So you'll notice that the wire, it's set in place, but we haven't actually embedded the wire, should I say, we haven't actually embedded the wire in the dust. So I'm going to add more, and I'm going to be quite liberal with it. We'll stoke it down with a tool just now. We can give it a couple of taps and shakes, get it everywhere, get it under the wire, down the sides, tight up the front there, but you don't want to put too much in, so you can't put the weight in. That's adequate for the front for now, and now we're going to do the back. Again, just get pinchfuls of dust, run it along the wire cavity or recess, right up to the middle hook point, which is very important that we get that in there quite solidly. Stoke that down, and this will take quite a bit of dust. This, move it forward. Best to do this in a couple of different goes, so you can actually embed it, put super glue, let it foam up, put some more dust, let it foam up. And we're also going to make sure we get it in between the wire here. I'm sure, I don't know if the camera can pick that up, you can see that the cavity between the wire of the belly hook point is now filled with dust as well. And there we have it, we're ready to go. Make sure this is level, and just liberally apply super glue. You can see that reaction, watch your eyes. You'll see, if you notice closely, it's foaming up. It's coming to the surface. If you get a bit too much in one place, just tilt the lure, you can get into other places. You can maneuver the super glue. There we go. I am working in an open environment here, so it's quite safe in this regard. Okay, and remember as well the little gully between the wire, and you can see that bubbling there. That is pretty much set in there, and I can guarantee you there's nothing that's going to get that out. Nothing. It's such a solid set, nothing's going to move it. Okay, so now to make sure the weight still fits in there, I've just done that, it does. The next step I do is I like to do this. It's really not probably necessary, but I like to score the weight. Just do some cross hatches across it. That makes sure there's a tighter bond there, and that your glue, super glue mixture does in fact bond to it. So I've just scored it a little bit there. I'm going to score it on the other side. So what we'll do is, again, we'll get the dust, make a bed for the weight, because remember that the thin viscosity super glue runs everywhere. We'll also fill in the rest of this wire cavity at the back here, make it flush with the top of the lure. At this point you can leave it less dense than previously, and we'll get the weight centralized and in position, which we have now done. Let me just make sure that it's perfectly in line with the wire, which it is. And now, which is a little bit more difficult, is just getting dust into those recesses there. Knock it down a bit, a few shakes around there. Again, as I say, leave it loose, because we want the super glue to run around that weight. We want it to run under the weight and firmly cement this in place. I've actually many times tried to take one of these lures apart, so deconstruct them, and it's virtually impossible to get these weights out without destroying the whole lure. So it's never going to go anywhere. Bit of overkill maybe, but I like to do it. And we're ready to go. So we'll get our super glue again, just move it onto a better surface, bit of light. We'll just run that liberally along there, and you can see it foaming out like so. And don't worry, that all sands off. Okay, so I'm going to now set the weight in place. Again, liberally apply the super glue. You know it's working when you see the reaction, which I can see already. Get it right into those recesses. Let it sink in. Try not to spill over onto the gills you've already detailed and everything. And we're pretty much set in place there. That is not going anywhere. All I'd do now is I'll put more sawdust over there. I'd cover the weight. I'd fill in these holes here, sand that down, get everything flush again, and we'll have a finished product ready to now do the eyes and then to finally prime.